It is Thursday at 11 p.m. You are sitting at your laptop looking at your bank account. $10,214. You take a screenshot, not to show anyone, just to prove to yourself that it is real. You've never had this much money before. You close the app and reopen it 30 seconds later because part of you expects the number to have changed. It turns out it was a mistake. This moment right now is the most dangerous situation you can find yourself in financially. Not because the money isn't real, but because of what happens next. My name is Logan Wolfe, and I've seen far too many people ruin their financial futures with their first $10,000. If you are starting from scratch, that first $10,000 is a major turning point. Subscribe, because what I am about to tell you will significantly change your perspective on this turning point. Here is the thing. No one warns you about this. Reaching $10,000 feels like crossing the finish line. If you are starting from zero, you earned every penny of that money. You worked hard. You made sacrifices. You said no to the things you wanted. You finally made it, but you haven't crossed the finish line. You've entered a minefield. And the explosions don't look like explosions. They look like opportunities. Let me show you why this number is so dangerous. In the early 1980s, the average American household had about $8,000 in liquid savings. In today's money, dollars in liquid savings. That meant real security. A new car cost $6,000. A year of college cost $3,000. An emergency medical situation could cost $1,500. Having $8,000 meant you could handle 2 or 3 major events. Fast forward to today, Federal Reserve data shows that average household savings hover around $5,000. We're actually worse off than we were 40 years ago. Meanwhile, the cost of everything that $10,000 used to cover has gone up. A reliable used car currently costs between $15,000 and $20,000. A year of education at a state university costs between $11,000 and $28,000. Depending on the state, going to the emergency room, even with good insurance, can still cost between $3,000 and $5,000. Here is a cruel paradox. If you save $10,000 in 2026, and if this is your first $10,000, it will be difficult to hold on to that money because you are in a different situation than before. You had no savings before, but now you have your first $10,000, and you probably don't know how to manage it because people are vulnerable when they experience change for the first time. You've made your first 5-figure savings. You should be proud. However, that same $10,000 buys less than half of what it could have bought. In 1980, you worked harder to save money that protects you less. This is not a personal failure. It is an economic reality that redefines the cost of security. Now watch what happens the moment you hit $10,000. Everything changes, not in your bank account, in how the world treats you. First, your bank notices. They absolutely notice. You start getting emails, premium checking accounts with fee waivers if you maintain a minimum balance of $10,000. Hi, yield savings accounts promising 4% returns, investment account promotions, credit card offers with $15,000 limits, and travel rewards. High yield savings accounts promising 4% returns, investment account promotions, credit card offers with a $15,000 limit, and travel rewards. Remember, banks don't make money off people who have nothing. They make money off people who appear to have something. Once you hit $10,000, you look like someone worth selling to. But here is the catch. Each of these offers is designed on a specific assumption that you'll keep the $10,000 fixed, that you'll put it in their high-yield accounts that offer 4% returns, while inflation eats away at 3%, and that you'll get a net real return of 1%. You'll maintain the minimum balance to avoid fees, meaning you can't use the money without incurring penalties. There is a chance you'll increase your credit limit, and because of the limit, gradually spend more, almost imperceptibly. The bank isn't trying to help you turn your $10,000 into $50,000. They are trying to turn your disciplined behavior into their own source of income. And it works. It works on almost everyone. But if you are financially literate and have educated yourself about money, you probably won't see the bank part as dangerous. For most people, the most dangerous part is what goes on inside your head after you reach $10,000. A psychological shift occurs. For months, maybe years, you operated in deprivation mode. Every dollar mattered. Every purchase was scrutinized. You were hyper focused on the goal. Reach $10,000. That was the mission. Then you reach the goal, and your brain, which has been tense for so long, finally relaxes. You start thinking, I earned this. I deserve to enjoy some of it, and you do deserve it. That is not the problem. The problem is, what does enjoying life mean to a brain that has been deprived? You don't treat yourself to a nice dinner. You upgrade your lifestyle. Now that you have the money, you move into a $300 more expensive apartment each month. You rent a car instead of driving your old one because you are tired of feeling embarrassed. You buy branded food products. You subscribe to services you've been putting off. Gym membership, streaming platforms, meal kits. You buy branded food products, perhaps. You subscribe to services you've been putting off. Gym membership, streaming platforms. None of these decisions seem reckless at the time. They seem deserved, justified, and reasonable. But mathematically, what is really happening is this. A $300 upgrade costs you $3,600 annually. Car rental is $350 monthly, or $4,200 annually. Subscriptions are $150 monthly, so your expenses increase by another $1,800 annually. You've added $9,600 to your annual fixed costs. Your $10,000 is no longer growing. It is just sitting there, or worse, it is slowly eroding because your new base expenses are higher than your savings rate. A year later, you are back down to $7,000, wondering what happened. 2 years later, you are down to $4,000, and an emergency brings you close to zero again. Or there is another possibility just as dangerous as this scenario that happens more often to younger people when you get your $10. $000, you work harder to increase that money. And let's assume you invest aggressively without doing much research, based on hearsay. Maybe you get into futures trading, and in the end, a large part of the money is lost before a year is up. I've witnessed young people going through this scenario. In my opinion, the most useful thing about this topic is to stay away from unconscious investments and not invest without researching. Learn about investing yourself, and most importantly, don't take investment advice from anyone. I am Logan Wolfe, and I don't give investment advice to anyone on this channel. I analyze the turning points, money thresholds, and psychological states people may encounter with money, and I talk about situations I've experienced myself and that people have experienced or may experience. Now, let's get back to our topic. You are at a $10,000 turning point. You are working incredibly hard to get there. You feel successful. You are improving your life in line with this success. These improvements bring new fixed costs. New costs prevent you from saving more. You plateau or regress. The discipline that got you to $10,000 is now being used to maintain $10,000, not to surpass it. And that is what makes it so insidious. You are not making blatantly bad choices. You are not buying a boat. You are not gambling. You are making normal upgrade decisions that feel responsible, a better apartment, a reliable car, quality food products, things financially stable people do. But financially stable people don't make these upgrades with their first $10,000. They do it when they have $40,000 or $60,000 when their foundations are solid. But you don't know that. All you know is that you have more money than ever before and that you should finally start living better. $60,000 when their foundations are solid. But you don't know that. All you know is that you have more money than ever before and that you should finally start living better. We live in an age of consumption, which makes saving money and increasing capital difficult. Let me tell you what happened to me. I worked part-time jobs while in college for years and saved up very small amounts of money. And at 24, my savings reached $10,000 for the first time. I felt invincible. I upgraded everything. A better apartment, a new laptop, nicer clothes, because I was meeting more people. I wasn't being irresponsible. I was investing in myself, or at least, that is what I told myself. So like I said, When you have that much money for the first time, you might not know what to do with it. 18 months later, I had $3,800 in savings and $4,200 in credit card debt. I had gone from a net worth of $10,000 to a debt of $400. It wasn't one disaster. It was the result of thousands of small decisions that all seemed justified. The laptop was for work. The apartment was closer to clients. The clothes were for a professional look. Every expense had a reason. The cumulative effect was devastating. It took me 3 years to get back to $10,000. And when I did, I learned the hardest lesson. The first $10,000 isn't about what you do with it. It is about what you don't do with it. It is about resisting every instinct your deprived brain screams at you. Now, let's talk about the other trap. Investment gambling. You have $10,000. You've read that you can't build wealth just by saving. You probably thought you needed to invest, correct? But dangerous? You start researching stocks, cryptocurrency, options trading. Some YouTubers turned $5,000 into $50,000 in 6 months. You think, if I can triple that, I'll have $30,000 and I am set. This is where people with $10,000 do things people with $100,000 would never do. They take big risks. They put all their money into a single stock, or worse, they invest in something they don't understand: meme stocks, high-risk cryptocurrencies, leveraged ETFs. The logic is, I only have $10,000, so I need to get huge returns. If I invest in index funds that yield 8% annually, that is only $800 a year. Even if you decide to invest in index funds, it would be beneficial to make that decision based on your own research or with the help of a financial expert, without taking investment advice from anyone. An 8% annual return won't change my life. But if I double or triple it, then we can talk. That is where the flaw in this logic lies. Even an $800 annual return grows with compound interest, with regular contributions and an 8% return over 10 years. $10,000 can turn into between $40,000 and $60,000, depending on how much you add. That changes your life. However, chasing quick gains and spending that $10,000 means you may never reach that point. I've seen this happen dozens of times. Someone reaches $10,000, they get excited. They discover options trading or cryptocurrency, they invest everything. 6 months later, they're left with $2,000 and learn a very expensive lesson about why risk management matters. They didn't lose because they were stupid. They lost because $10,000 felt both too much and not enough. It is enough to make you feel like you need to invest. It is not enough to make you feel like you can be patient. So what can you do? How do you use your first $10,000 without losing it? After learning the hard way, here is what worked for me and what I've seen work for others. First, understand what $10,000 really is. It is not a fortune. It is not security. It is a foundation, the first layer of a structure you'll build over years. No decorating the foundation. Protect it and build on it. Second, establish a baseline rule. Your $10,000 is now your foundation. You cannot dip below this level except in real emergencies. Travel is not an emergency. FOMO is not an emergency. A real emergency: your car breaks down. A medical issue. You lose your job. Third, you can maintain your lifestyle at a $2,000 income level. This is the hardest part because it doesn't feel fair. You've worked hard and now you want to enjoy it. Yes, exactly, because enjoyment comes after the foundations are solid. Right now, you are building something to improve your lifestyle. You need to allocate funds from your new income, not your savings. Fourth, you can split your savings strategy. You can keep $10,000 in a low-risk or risk-free place based on your own research and trust without taking investment advice from anyone. This gives you two things. It really brings your emergency cushion to a safe level, and it runs the investment savings machine without risking your foundation. If investments drop by 30%, you won't panic because your foundation is still solid. Fifth, you automate everything. The moment you get paid, the money moves. A percentage goes to the foundation fund. A percentage goes to the investment account. A percentage goes to bills. What is left is money to spend. If you make decisions manually each time, you will find reasons to make exceptions. You can automate according to your own character and structure, or you can make manual investments by thinking hard. It is entirely your decision, but it is beneficial not to forget to stay conscious. You need to know what you are doing. Sixth, it is beneficial to be able to act consciously towards all banks because all credit limit increases, all investment opportunities that you didn't find but found you. If something is marketed to you after you reach $10,000, it is designed for their benefit, not yours. The default answer is no. Being aware of this will give you mental awareness. The seventh and very important point is that you can leave yourself a little escape route. You can take 2% of $10,000, which is $200, and do whatever you want. A nice dinner, a little trip, something you've been eyeing. This isn't about being completely deprived. It is about being strategic. You get a small reward that satisfies your psychological need without disrupting your financial plan. The eighth and final point, being aware of the psychological impact of money, can be beneficial for you. You may have lost money in the past and still feel that psychological obsession. That feeling may always be there, but if you can turn that feeling from a disadvantage into an advantage, you can always stay conscious and avoid making wrong decisions about money. Finally, let me tell you what happened to me after I applied this. After doing this, I reached $10,000 again. I froze my lifestyle. Because of my character and lifestyle, I automated everything. I gave myself $200. 18 months later, I had $22,000 in savings and $8,000 in investments. 2 years after that, I had $30,000 in savings and $18,000 in investments. The growth wasn't linear, it was exponential. But the only reason for that was that I hadn't touched the foundation. The most dangerous money you can have isn't your first million. It is your first $10,000. Because $1 million comes with experience and perspective. $10,000 comes with a mix of hope and desperation. It is enough to feel like you've succeeded, but it is not enough to feel truly secure. This gap between perception and reality is where most financial futures are destroyed. If this video showed you something you weren't aware of regarding your own financial situation, hit the subscribe button. At every financial turning point, I analyze the psychological traps and specific strategies to avoid them. Leave a comment and tell me where you are. Have you reached $10,000 and spent it? Are you currently thinking about your next step? Have you passed this stage and wish you had known this earlier? Let's compare notes. See you in the next video.